A very good afternoon to everyone. Hi, this is Kadri Rana, and I welcome you all to a very special session of Supply Chain Triathlon conceptualized and organized by Logistics Insider. We are very excited and hopeful that today's session imparts significant knowledge to our audience, and you have a lot to take home as we conclude this session. Today, we have gathered here to discuss upon a very important subject. Today's topic is Warehousing India Rising Against All Odds, powered by Mahindra World City. Mahindra World City has pioneered the concept of integrated cities and industrial clusters across India. Amid the outbreak of the pandemic, the real estate sector, which was already pushed against the wall, like any other sector, went for a toss. However, it was the commercial real estate sector which saw a variation in its fortune, especially the warehousing sector. In the last few years, the sector has set benchmarks in terms of demand, supply, and investment. While the warehousing sector, like every other, saw the burns of the pandemic, it was one of the fastest to make its way towards recovery. As the nation opens up and we all move towards a new normal, it is believed that segments such as consumer durables, FMCG, and e-commerce are likely to expand their footprint in order to reach to their consumers in a more efficient manner. We have brought together a vibrant set of panel today, and I do believe that we have done a great job in bringing these industry stalwarts together on our platform to discuss upon where the warehousing sector is headed and what are the trends that has the potential to redefine it. Today, we have with us Mr. APR Abhishek, who is the Group Director at Varuna. Next, we have Mr. Atul Holkar, who is the CEO at We Procure Enterprises and is a former supply chain head at Varuna Beverages Limited, PepsiCo. Then we have Mr. Prakrut Mehta, Director Leasing at ESR India. Next up is Mr. Anuj Bindal, Senior General Manager, Head Business Development and Marketing at Mahindra World City. And finally, we have with us Mr. Karuna Karan, who is the Senior Director of Industry and Logistics at CBRE India. Mr. Karuna will be moderating today's session. Also, towards the end of today's session, we will be conducting a Q&A round, so audience, please feel free to drop your questions in the comments section. Now, without any further ado, we would like to begin with the session. So over to you, Mr. Karuna.
Thank you, Kavi. Thank you so much. I hope you all can hear me. Good evening to all. This is Karuna here from CBRE. And I have been with firm for 20 years and working on the leasing side of industrial and logistic clients occupier side. And I'm working for South India transactions primarily. I first of all, thank you so much for Logistic Insiders for giving me the opportunity to be part of this entire session and moderate the session. Thank you so much for that. And just again, Kavi really briefed out very clearly what happened in the logistics sector to start with. And as a consultant, what we have seen, just to start with that, again, 2019 was a fantastic year from the leasing point of view for the logistic industrial, developers as well as consultant as well as occupiers. We have seen almost about 33 million square foot of space absorption in 2019. And we started with good note in 2020 also in the first quarter to, from the inquiries point of view as well as the activity point of view in the market. But as we all know, we got into the pandemic in the month of, effectively from the month of Feb, March time. Uh, Again, from that time onwards, there was a bit of delay in progress of the work and there's some kind of slowdown in the market overall. In spite of that, one sector which where we had always activity on the ground whether it could be in the form of short-term requirement, mid-term requirement, and various formats, and some long-term RFPs out in the market, etc., was only from logistic clients and logistic developers. So that's a good point and a good part of the entire industry point of view, and that shows how resilient the vertical was compared to other verticals in the market. So we had some good closures also. In fact, in this pandemic period, it could be even it could be for short-term requirements, but definitely we had some closures during this period. And the other important point, though there was some delay in terms of the closure and delay in terms of moving ahead with the transaction, we didn't see too many clients coming back to us saying, we are completely moving away from this transaction, moving away from this requirement, which is a good part actually. So with all this, definitely, just to summarize, there could be some slowdown and there could be some delays, etc. But activity was good in the market, and it has kept everybody engaged in the market. So that's a quick, synopsis from the leasing point of view. Having said that, we also had a good, discussions going on from the developers' point of view, from the investment towards the sector. So what we have seen throughout the period, developers who were looking out for land parcel for acquisition to build industrial parks, they continue to do that. They continue to go ahead and look out for the land parcels to build new parks, and the investment, they shown complete positive sign towards it, which is a good. So that will increase the supply over a period of time across India, which is good sign from the business point of view. So this is something like quick overview what I wanted to give from the occupier's point of view as well as developers point of view and from the investment point of view. In approximately 2019, we have seen the investment coming into the sector around 200 USD million, and we expect similar kind of, may not be in this year, but over a period of 24 months, including this year, the investment crossing that number. So overall, the sector looks good and very positive in terms of inquiries, in terms of activities in the market, and keeping all the, whether it is occupier, developer, or consultant engaged in the business. And today, in this kind of condition, today we have some interesting topics to discuss. One, we are talking about investment towards the industry. So we'll have some questions around investment. What is the opportunity opening from the investment point of view? Second, we have also seen as a trend, the in-city warehousing developments, what's happening on that, and what is the requirement from the clients when they're talking about in-city requirement. Also, what's the expectation from developers? And the third, who are the major occupiers of this space, what's coming up in the market? Because as we all know, what we have seen is it's primarily driven by e-commerce companies when it comes to logistics space. Will the trend continue, or will it improve, or any other sector coming into the play, etc.? We can talk about that. And the fourth point, we can also look at what's the trend from the occupiers. Are they looking at moving towards a consolidation in a better location, better technology for better delivery, and also most important piece is what's the efficiency they are talking about in the new locations. And the last, we can also touch upon on the policies. What is the policy, current policy, as well as the new policies proposed by government, or as an occupier or a developer, what is the requirement from our side, if we have to put across some policy reforms and corrections to the government. So these are the agenda what we are primarily looking at today. And we have the combination of developers as well as the occupiers in the panel today. We have Anuj and Prakrut representing two large development companies in India, and also Atul and Abhishek from the occupier side, who had a lot of experience in occupier side. Um, to start with, I'll start with the investment side. As I said, that's the first component what we looked at. Just to look at it from the investment side, Vero's investment opening gates to the opportunity. Is it a stable future in new normal? This is the question what we have. And I would like to go to Anuj to start with his views on this particular point. Anuj, over to you.
Thanks, Karuna. And it's a pleasure to be part of the eminent panelists here. And as Karuna said, the today's session would give us a good perspective both from a development as well as from the occupier perspective. And to start with, if I talk about my views on the point of view in terms of how the evolution of warehousing has happened in India and how the investment has moved in. Not sounding too much, Karuna, as a historian, but let me pick up some few points about 2 decades ago and how things have really moved. I think there's been a significant change in terms of how the warehousing and logistics and how overall supply chain is looked at in India today. 2 decades ago, when we really used to look at the warehousing market, people typically used to refer them not as a warehouse or maybe a sort center or a FC, rather calling it as a go down. And the mindsets used to be more like, how I can save every penny of the rental into it rather than looking at an overall efficient ecosystem. I think that's what is changing significantly. And, people have realized, and, the economies have realized that there is a large part of cost to GDP which the logistics and warehousing contribute. And India, it is at almost hovering between about 13 to 14% in compared to developed economies like Japan, large part of Europe and the US, which are sub 10%, between 9 to 10%. So India has been working quite significantly from a government perspective in terms of improving also the infrastructure and as well as from a policy perspective as well. 2017, the announcement of GST, which is like one nation, one tax, has really given the impetus in terms of the overall the way the warehousing is to be looked at, and that also led to a lot of emergence of the organized sector, in both, improving the supply chain from a perspective of logistics as well as from a perspective of warehousing. And that's where, people started feeling you need a more efficient ecosystem, which could be in part of the integrated ecosystems like logistics park, integrated cities. And that's, has really moved the shift from probably a independent warehouse where the entire dependency in terms of building the ecosystem is lies with the landlord or with the tenant, and you are day in day out dependent on the municipal corporation in terms of utilities, amenities, access, and you put less focus on your business and large you were spending times in terms of getting the day-to-day matters resolved. So, here I like to also give an example of Mahindra World City. We've been there in this business for last 2 decades, and we started our journey with Chennai. Now today we are present in Jaipur and as well as Ahmedabad. So we started our journey as an integrated ecosystem, and the whole idea was to give a rise in the quality of life of people as well as in terms of the industry which comes in. Today we have more than 160 companies spread across between three locations, and there's a large part of multinational companies, which are present. And they were really looking at an ecosystem which can enable them in their businesses, and that's what has led to a lot of ecosystem being built around the lot of logistic players coming in. Prakrut is there from ESR, and there's a lot of other players who have come in. So if you really see over the last 2 decades, in terms of the organized warehousing inventory has reached to close to about 300 million square feet, and India has been a favored destination for FDI. So over the last 5 years, India has almost attracted close to about $6 billion of investment in the warehousing sector alone. And how we really look at the overall growth in terms of the logistics sector, because logistics and warehousing kind of an integrate between each other. There is a good double-digit CAGR growth, which is being looking forward to almost like 10.5% of CAGR growth over the next 5 years. So these are some of the initial thoughts I have, Karuna, in terms of how there's been evolution and how infrastructure quality development as well as the changing mindset of the occupier is changing the whole paradigm shift in the warehousing industry.
Absolutely. Thanks, Anuj. I think you made a good point over there, which is basically with the GST coming into place, uh, uh, the occupiers looking at consolidation, moving into larger facilities, which is creating opportunity for developers to look at investment in those, facilities and start buying land, building, industrial parks and logistic parks. That's a good point. Sure. Thanks, Anuj. Uh, I'll just go to Prakrut because Prakrut is already doing this similar kind of work, and they have built, um, kind of logistic parks across India, and they're building it across India, and with the same model where they're getting the funding organized and they're getting the funding infusions and working on it. Prakrut, one request is when we have spoken about the current way forward, current involvement from the fund companies to the logistic industries and how they have helped the people to change. I just also want to touch upon how it's going to impact in future. Is that the business and investment companies will start looking at India even more aggressively, and will that help the developers to build more parks, etc.? Over to you, Prakrut.
Sure, thanks. I think Karna, interesting topic to start with investments, and Anuj has already given a very good flavor of the macro situation that India is in. I will probably, go a little more micro, and I have a day-to-day interaction with customers, so I'll probably share a couple of insights which I feel would lead to the future investment strategy of most firms, be it Indian homegrown companies like Mahindra or an APAC focused fund like ESR. What is happening is obviously the COVID situation has given a slightly different twist, or I would say perspective, where there has been a movement of labor, and there are organizations who are now thinking that while there is merit in consolidation, there is also merit in decentralization. So why can't I move from a high rental zone like a Chennai, Pune, etc., to maybe a more optimized rental zone? So I am seeing that the future investments would probably go into what we call in the real estate parlance like a tier two or a tier three city. I would expect e-commerce momentum in cities like Lucknow, Patna, you know, and Coimbatore, to just name a few, just from an example perspective. And similarly, industrialization, as I see, you know, a lot of, I would say, micro industrialization is what we would foresee coming up. So I would say a park which is more like an ecosystem. Right now, most of us, be it Anuj or be it me or whoever, are focusing on large occupiers taking up larger space. It is obviously a part of a connected larger ecosystem. But going forward, maybe instead of a 100-acre park, it could be a 200-acre park, which would be a mix of a micro, an MSME, SME, and a large player. So it could be a 200 or a 300-acre industrial park, very, very focused, which itself becomes a larger ecosystem. I think Mandra has already tried to do it, and of course, they've done it successfully that we know. But that is the future. And so far, it has been happening in major cities, and I see uh, a version of it happening in smaller cities going forward. On that's being the industrial side. I think a similar situation is happening on the e-commerce and the regular logistics side also. So while bigger cities continue to grow and keep becoming bigger, I think there is time now in the next 2 to 3 years where you would see a lot of smaller cities coming up. It could be a Vijayawada, it could be, I mean, you name the city. It could be outskirts of even Nagpur for that matter. The growth may not be as high as a Bombay or a Delhi, but you will see an all-round growth, and that's where most of our investment is going to go going forward. I guess that is my side as far as the micro perspective is concerned.
Great, Prakrut. Thank you so much. And absolutely right. We have seen that already started happening to the point of viewers in terms of secondary cities coming into the play. I can give you some example over there, like what's happening. If you look at Bangalore, for example, we already seen some action happening in the nearest locations, which is Hosur, which is not part of Bangalore, which is not part of Karnataka, but taking the advantage of the location advantage, which is closer to Bangalore, but the cost is really on lower side compared to Bangalore. But there is enough of interest, and as you rightly said, because the consolidation and infrastructure, everything is consolidation opportunity, infrastructure availability, and developer like you who are looking at Osur as a market. I'm just giving one example. As you rightly said, it could be
Sure.
even Nagpur, it could be even other cities which is closer to larger cities, right? Thank you
Correct.
so much. Thanks. So what
Sure.
we are talking about is with the modernization of the industry, with the expectation from clients moving from non-compliance to compliance requirements, compliance building requirements, and also with the GST in place, taking the advantage of moving into smaller cities, the opportunities are wide open, and the investors will look at it more aggressively and more keenly into India is what we are largely talking about here.
Correct.
Yeah. Thanks, Prakrut. Thank you so much for the input. So
Sure.
also when thank you, Prakrut. We're talking about um, when we're talking about especially now the investment is coming into India, and there are occupiers to look at it and also developers to build it. The, that leads to another question: who are these occupiers? Who's the leading sector among them? Right. So the way how it is moving from current to in future. So as of now, just to give a small stat on that, what we have seen is if we go by 2019 and early 2020 stats, most of the occupation is done by either e-commerce and 3PL logistic companies. The 3PL logistic companies has leased more than 31% of the overall space leased out in last year to now, and e-commerce guys has leased out about 21%. So put together, both of them have leased close to 50% of the logistic space. Again, just adding to that another point, when we are talking about 3PL guys, most of the 3PL guys have leased space again for e-commerce guys. So where I'm coming from is at least one third or more than one third of the space clearly moving towards e-commerce guys occupying the space either directly or to third party logistic clients. So are we going to see this similar kind of trend in future? This is the next part of the question. What we have, investment is coming in strongly, developers are looking at it, building it, and who's going to occupy? So can we have some insight on that? Again, I'll start with Prakrut because you are dealing with e-commerce guys directly, indirectly most of the time, Prakrut.
So, Karuna, what you said is very right. The major demand is coming from 3PL, but yeah. So the sorry, my bad. So the major demand is coming from 3PL, and I think rightfully so. One third of the space being taken up by e-com, and the rest, even if it is 3PL, it is for e-com.
Yes.
Karuna, I have a little different thought here. While e-commerce is growing and there is no marks for guessing that, and most of our resources that we are spending is towards making our services, product, more optimized, more better, more efficient, so that their operations become efficient. I mean, there's no marks for guessing that. But
Sure.
we must not forget that uh, there is a lot of change happening on the other side also. So which means that the B2B market, which is primarily also contributing to a significant percentage in the 3PL or the logistics business, is also now getting smarter, where people have started realizing that technology plays a very important lead there. So probably the requirement to get smarter warehouses, more efficient warehouses, better location, you know, that is what is happening, and that is one of the key areas that we are also focusing on. Uh, you know, e-commerce being the primary focus area, but an equal amount of focus is going on to the B2B side of business also. Having said that, I see a huge, I wouldn't say sentimental change, but the COVID situation has made most occupiers sit and start asking questions about everything from safety to security to efficiency. I mean, does it make sense to look at logistics and warehousing as a cost center alone, and keep focusing on how to reduce it, or should it be looked upon as a place where serious innovation can happen? uh, that's what is happening, and that is where especially developers like us are probably working together with occupiers to make that space not only safe and secure from a working standpoint, but also more efficient from everything, from an inventory management standpoint to how to probably improve bottom line by better management of the stock. So is it possible to use the same space or maybe even optimize space and yet handle more stock or more delivery? That's what we are currently working on with a few clients. I see that the trend is going towards that. Correct.
Sure.
That's more or less a summary of what I think is happening. Not to diverge away from e-commerce and 3PL for e-commerce. I mean that is bread and butter and no brainer. But I think the other sector is a little ignored right now, and somewhere I think we must focus on them also, because they do contribute significantly, maybe more than the e-commerce today, although fragmented. Yeah, that's from my
Absolutely.
side.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Uh, Thanks, Prakrut. Again, Anuj, from your point of view, because largely your focus was initially to look at the industries, because you started your business of industrial parks almost 2 decades back. So today, now e-commerce guys and logistic guys taking away major junk in the occupiers as an occupier today. But from your point of view, how do you see this? Today, your parks, wherever you are building speculative buildings, are looking at leasing market. What's your focus, and who are the clients who are approaching you for the leasing of those buildings, Anuj?
Yeah, Karuna. So, I think some of the points Prakrut and you talked about, and really, in terms of the market share, when we look at the industrial occupier perspective, and when we look at our journey over the last 2 decades, when we started creating the integrated cities and industrial clusters, initially the preference was from clients was to look at a capital intensive model where they would want to take up a land, build their own campuses, and have a long term ownership on the asset without keeping any regular cost of operations in terms of rentals and all. But what change it's been also bringing, especially over the last 5 years, is not just the warehousing and the 3PL players, but also many of the manufacturing companies, they have come up and said, and especially people who have come to India and testing the market, they would like to come and see, work on an OPEX model, look at a build to suit, high spec building, and operate for a few years on a rental model, and then probably have an option to buy. And we have seen that happening more in terms of percentage share of buy of land to an rental model today. Large multinational companies coming and giving a long-term commitment, and as a developer, as an investor, finding a tenant who can give you a long-term commitment and also does significant investment in their own infrastructure is also a pretty good investment, from a perspective of looking at that opportunity. And that's what Prakrut also tried to touch upon, saying, okay, if e-commerce and 3PL was only 30 to 40% of the market share, then the larger part of the share is also driven a lot by the manufacturing sector. If you look at the white good FMCG sector, food processing, that last mile connectivity and operational efficiency is very, very important. And with changing trends, as we said, as you started with the new normal, the COVID is really bringing the new normal in place where, the buying trend is just changing. Yesterday, people were, even if five of us sitting on this panel, we look back and see about a year ago what percentage of products we were buying physically and what we are buying online. And I think that has really given the spurt in terms of the e-commerce players. But yes, e-commerce is one important player, but I think the way the government is really focusing on Atmanirbhar Bharat investments coming into India, opening FDI and all, there are a lot more sectors which are coming in, and they are also really need the support from the overall supply chain perspective, and rightly said so, by you and Prakrut. The tier two, tier three cities are also gaining momentum, and when we see our locations, Chennai and Ahmedabad would categorize into a tier one, tier two cities, and when we look at Jaipur as a tier three city, we already have two large e-commerce players in the Mahindra city itself, including Amazon and Flipkart, and from a 3PL perspective, delivery. So we are seeing there is a large size, large format, warehouse requirement also emerging into the tier two and the tier three markets because of the consumer behavior changing. And of course, all of them want just-in-time delivery. Customer expectations are changing. So I think these are some of the thoughts. I think which is driving the market in terms of not just warehousing, but in terms of industrial space, as you rightly said, in terms of occupancy per se is concerned.
Great. Thanks, Anuj. Thanks. So, yes, adding to what you mentioned, it also goes sometime with the cities, what we are looking at. I'll just tell you where I'm coming from. If we are talking about South, probably Bangalore, maybe, the more demand is driven from e-commerce guys from the occupation point of view. Rather, look at Chennai, which is a combination of industrial and logistic. In fact, to a certain extent, industrial is more dominated over there than logistic companies taking large space over there. Likewise, in West, if we go to probably Pune will have more industrial requirement, as you said. Pune and Ahmedabad share a lot of industrial requirements, where Mumbai is still looking at immediate and south center side of requirement from the logistic guys to take care of it. So again, agree with you. It's more to do with the cities also. When we are talking about overall across India, what we have seen is more dominated by e-commerce guys on the leasing side of the business, not maybe permanent investment into the industry from the logistic self-build point of view. It's on the leasing side of the business. Agree with you. Thanks, Anuj. But you just brought up another point into that, which is last mile connectivity. That's another subject what we want to discuss today. So today, when we are talking about e-commerce guys and occupation from e-commerce guys, what's the formats they're looking at? Pretty much, they look at all the formats to start with fulfillment center, to sort center, to receiving center, and the last one is delivery centers. So today, what we have seen, what's happening is what we hear also more so is basically the in-city delivery centers, trend. Who are all looking at it and what is happening on that front, and is the future market, etc. So I'll come to Atul on that to start with. Atul, just your views on ongoing trend of in-city delivery centers across India in certain major cities to start with, Taiwan cities, etc. Your views, Atul.
Okay, so let me start with the entire supply chain designing first, as to what are the fundamentals and how it's going to impact. Because whatever we would be discussing, it's maybe maybe disrupted within few weeks, months, or years. So what are the key parameters which actually define as to how will the entire supply chain network between the manufacturer, the warehousing, and the consumer is designed? Two things basically: any possibility of disruption of supply lines, that defines how the warehouse will be located. Then is any changes in the demand of the consumer, that all further dictates as to where exactly would the warehouse would be. Right. So what starts with the consumer, to the inventory requirement and its placement, to the warehouse requirement, and overall impacted by the environment, whether it is government driven, natural driven, various other issues of likely disruption, governs how, where, and where will be the warehouses, whether in city or outside city. Besides that, the entire warehouse industry had become so used to of a norm, that every state would have a warehouse and every city would have a warehouse. But subsequently, that changed immediately moment GST came, and we rushed immediately that now I will have one warehouse in a region, 5 states served from one region. And imagine now that is same being questioned within next in last just about 5 to 6 months, where all the parameters or whatever I would say what I used to teach or I have learned in supply chain of JIT and inventory management, lean inventory, everything is now being questioned, right? So we are going back to the drawing board, basis these two parameters, what is the consumer demand and what are the disruptions in supply chain. And if you look into the in-city warehouse, which is the new trend which is coming in fact, it was not a trend, it was something we left long time back. And we moved from in-city to outside because we said, firstly, our demand, we require larger warehouses, the rentals were very, very costly, the manpower was itself a problem, and the consumer didn't require within 24 hours. Now you, with a click of a button, you start looking as to when is my Amazon delivery going to happen. Or when you look into the food delivery, you start seeing the scooter moving on that map and say, where exactly is my food? So the consumer behavior has started forcing. And this is not only going to be an e-commerce thing, it is also going to be for other industries, right? B2B. Why would a CFA or a distributor or a wholesaler not have his warehouse inside the city? Because the possibility of disruptions. Look at the way Delhi is serving its citizens. Most of the time, there is no entry zones. There are lanes where there's 24 hours of no entry zone. How do you feed citizens, right? And that is the biggest challenge that is happening. But then the next challenge comes is, where do you find the space? In that says, how do you optimally utilize this? So can you have a multi-story warehousing and things like that? So all these things are going to be there. But again, the question is this the final? I always cross my finger in supply chain. There's never a finality in supply chain. What is the next thing that is going to tell us? You will react to that, create more supply chain networking and designing things, and also bring in technology to face that particular difficulty. Every technology which we brought has been the genesis of the problem of distribution. So we are going to go through this, that now we need in city, after what some time, probably if they do tunneling under New Delhi and come out with roads which is going to be supplying to every nook and corner coming out of the tunnel at key locations, we may just go back again to warehouses outside, and we all would be sitting in another meeting like this and how, wow, and now let's discuss about out city, warehousing. So these are my things, that this is the current trend. This would continue for some time. These disruptions are going to be a norm in future, and the warehouse industry should be ready to face that and come out with the optimized solution for this, whether it's cost, inventory delivery, inventory management, and manpower availability.
Great. Thanks, Atul. I think totally a different perspective as an occupier, more with from the occupier's point of view. Again, I'll just go to Abhishek also, because we wanted to understand more from another occupier's point of view about the ongoing trend on in-city delivery centers and warehousing centers. Of course, we have certain challenges in providing solutions. I'll come to Prakrut on that for his input. But as an occupier, your views, Abhishek.
Thanks, Karuna. Good afternoon, everyone. Karuna, I would like to actually go back a few steps. Take a few steps back, like Atul did, and
Sure.
actually also take cue from what Anuj and Prakrut both mentioned, and a few of your thoughts as well. So, see, I think since the topic is all about warehousing India and rising high against all odds, I think it's an amalgamation of like Atul said, how you actually react during a pandemic, how you react during a bad situation, and what do you have readily available at that point of time, and like he spoke about, there's no finiteness in the world of supply chain, right? So if you actually talk about that, and then I'll come into the world of a very specific sentiment around in city. Yeah. So the first question, and because there are three developers that I can see here, or three representatives of the world of real estate, that is Karuna, you, and Anuj and Prakrut. So I'll take the liberty of being a little to the point and also delivering a message, from an occupier's perspective. Yeah.
Sure.
Anuj spoke about a $6 billion investment in India through FDI. Yeah. And Prakrut also had few thoughts as much as you did. But if you look at it from an occupier's perspective, whether I am a 3PL or, if I am a user, what really matters to me? Yeah. What really matters to me as the final objective, you keep me in the most beautiful place with, if I have to draw an analogy, it would be the Taj. But if I have to talk about the real world, then we're talking about 6 metric ton per square meter in terms of flooring, and a great center height, a large shed, and all of that all put together. Finally, what matters to me is cost to serve. Yeah. Cost to serve matters to me, and please, I would like to urge this again and again. Hear it out loud and clear, everyone. That is what matters to me: cost to serve. Not only as an occupier, look at it from an economic perspective for the nation, right? So Prakrut, Anuj, Karuna, you guys can build great infrastructures, but if my cost to serve will increase, or if my cost to serve will not justify my investments, because any investments, be it in real estate, be it in the field of supply chain, every investment, we measure it this way: for every dollar, how many cents do you make, or for every dollar, how many dollars do you make, right? So from our perspective, the statement is very simple: every investment needs return, and I'm pretty sure those returns are important for you as well. Returns typically come out of profits, typically. Yeah. Valuation returns are a small percentile, right? So returns typically come out of profits. Profits come out of high revenue and lower costs. That's the difference, right? The profit is a derivative. Yeah, it's finally out of high revenue and lower costs, or the cost should be lower than the revenue, if I have to speak in that manner. So that is one perspective. Second point is we spoke about consolidation, or we spoke about deconsolidation. So let me tell you, GST, of course, has been a boon, but keeping that aside, and for the moment not elaborating too much on that, we have to understand that the question was not really consolidation. It was actually a misnomer. Please, my friends, please hear me on this. It was not the objective. The objective always was and will remain reach to market. Yeah.
Perfect.
And reach to market can be addressed basis various other challenges when you're solving those challenges, and this is where the interest in city delivery also comes into play. That if I have enough competition, if a Colgate is competing with a Patanjali, yeah, then that Colgate wants to be on the shelves before Patanjali is, or at the same time, so they don't want to stock out, right? So that is important. Reach to market is important, and while trying to solve that reach to market, costs have to be in control. And the angle on policy, which I think Karuna you will pick on later, and I will add my 2 cents there. Ultimately, all of this, a great infra with the right policies, with the right compliances, because that is something that unfortunately in our country so far, we like going by the book, with loopholes that are found, and in the context of trying to be compliant, right? So most important part is that it was always reach to market, and it is always returns. Let us not have any misunderstanding on that. Reach to market and returns, right? The third point was around e-commerce as a sector, and while I really appreciate the sentiment with all of you all talking about e-commerce, yeah. So let me share my experience of the last 22 years now in the industry, on both sides, user and service provider, but from your perspective, occupier, right? E-commerce or any sector is quite unpredictable, right? It has a life, and then that life sort of goes through a trough, and then it peaks again. Sometimes it peaks, sometimes it doesn't. So every industry, if you look at over the last 2.5 decades, they have gone through their own peaks and troughs. So investments, basically these peaks and troughs, are very I would say risky and not very highly advisable, and hence you would have noticed a lot of e-commerce companies also wanting to make their own investments, because a lot of 3PL and a lot of other companies were not willing to sort of take that bait okay, I recollect, without wanting to take the name, but amongst the top 3 e-commerce companies in India, while I was with Gati about 8-9 years ago. They approached us, and they were nowhere to where they are today. I mean, in NCR region, I think they have more than 5 or 6 fulfillment centers of 1 lakh and more square feet. So they approached us, and as a typical traditional player, we said that, what is the horizon in terms of investment and the return on capital employed? And they had no answer, because they themselves are clueless about their business in terms of how it will progress. So investments come in with a fair amount of clarity of a business plan, etc. And hence there are very few people who are investing on the wave of e-commerce, with all due respect. And there are people who are making money, and there are many who are not making money, right? So it's sort of a very calculated and maybe sometimes uncalculated gamble, right? So sector specific becomes very tricky. I think what we need to all understand is what is the industry needing, what is the need of the hour, and what is the need of the future. So like Atul pointed out, that all of a sudden there's a pandemic, all of a sudden there's a crisis, there's a force majeure. What do you do then, right? How do you keep your costs in check? How do you ensure that there's enough space available? How do you ensure that it's compliant? And how do you ensure that it is, there are multiple parameters that you have to ensure. It is not easy. It is absolutely not easy. So whether Mahindra City builds a massive park, or Prakrut decides to invest in something which is similar in terms of, let's say, 200 acres, etc., from an occupier's perspective, and I can speak for Atul also here and for various other occupiers, reach to market returns. So and that means the cost to serve is very, very important. And we can always compensate when my sales are high, when I'm reaching the market faster, when I'm ensuring that every other element within the supply chain is in sync, not only the infrastructure, but every other element is in sync. That is when the whole world, sort of will align. Now, as much as this sounds like a wish list, it is possible. There are various other countries and continents which are actually doing that. They are doing it very well, and I'm pretty sure the pace of our country, under the able guidance and leadership of our Prime Minister and his agenda, I think it's going in the right direction. We all have to be a little more patient and support. Having said all of that, I think, Karuna, in city logistics and ensuring that you have decent infrastructure closer to consumption point is, honestly speaking, a no-brainer. I mean, there's no debate on this, so to speak. We have to have that infrastructure. We have to have automation there, because like we spoke during our beta version of discussion, of deliberation, it is important to be able to, again, focus on your costs, because city costs are going to be expensive in terms of everything. Land acquisition cost, people cost.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then upskilling again is a very important point. I think I will leave that to Atul. I will not take that limelight away from him, because he wanted to speak about the skilling part of it, that how important it is to have enough resources that are trained. So while it is a no-brainer, and everybody might say that, okay, well, APR, it's a no-brainer, but why don't we see more of that? We don't see more of that simply because we don't have consolidation in our views. We don't have consolidation in our thoughts. What does the industry really need, right? So if a Mahindra World City, if a Prakrut gets join hands with Atul and an APR, or a Varuna and a Varun Beverages, or these organizations sort of join hands in either an SPV, or maybe not very legal in terms, but join hands in terms of co-working, that is when you would see that people are not focused on their own smaller investments and trying to make hay while the sun shines, but working towards a larger development of the nation, while ensuring that their own supply chains and their own business plans are yielding results. So that consolidation is important, not warehouse consolidations or warehouse deconsolidations, because that is too small a point, right? I mean, GST aaya, we changed the model. GST bus gaya, we decided that, now I need to ensure reach to market. So it's almost like, I'm turning a page and saying, oh, I didn't know about this. Oh, I didn't know about this. No, you actually had to think about it. You had to work jointly with the Anuj Bindals and the Prakrut Mehtas of the world, and that is when it works. So that hesitation will always be there from an occupier's perspective, because we will always think, is CBRE the right partner? Is Anuj the right partner? Is Mahindra City the right partner? Is ESR the right partner? So that internalizing of that selling internally, and that conviction that we can work together. Let's work on, why does Varuna want to invest in a massive large scale single shed warehouse? Can't Mahindra City do it for them? Let's say on a 20-year lease. Why can't ESR and Varuna work together? Why can't we do this? So these whys are very difficult. These whys are difficult, and the answers to the whys have an approach which is quite difficult a path. The easier path is that we can all talk about it doing smaller bits and pieces, but that will not solve the problem. We will not be able to rise against the odds that we are talking about here. Yeah. So that's my view.
So can I add just very briefly,
Karuna,
Sure.
Okay, just what Abhishek was saying from the user perspective, very, very briefly. Firstly is, if you look into the complete leasing industry, be it warehousing or large shops or malls and all, why are they empty now? Why are the shops being left now? Because they were so exorbitantly high that the first thing a business person decides is to leave the premises. If we would have been at a reasonable cost, the business person does not want to leave an infrastructure. Infrastructure is a very long-term thing. So most of the time when you find the rates of leasing are very high, it serves no purpose to both the user as well as the leasing. Leaser. So at the end of the day, if you come out with a reasonable rates, like the way the standardization of rates can happen with little bit of competition, it gives a long-term benefit both to the user as well the person who is leasing out the infrastructure. Secondly is the government regulation. So we decided to hire amazing, good-looking warehouse in Greater Noida, and only thing that was stopping us, because there was a condition attached that it has to be a manufacturing place, a beautiful warehouse, nothing, plain building. But they said this you can add some value to it. Why don't you start putting potato onion into some kind of package so that we can say you're into manufacturing? Imagine, the government needs to be flexible, and the warehouse industry needs to go back to the government. Here we invest so much of money in creating infrastructure. By one line of a bureaucrat, you can't change the usage. At the end of the day, it's an industrial area. It is for storage. Because it is not manufacturing, warehousing has to be very, very flexible, and sometimes the industries move from one, like the way Abhishek was saying that it can move from e-commerce to another. But now if you say it is tied up to one particular set of things, it can never happen. So warehousing industry, this is just the right time to lean onto the government and say bring in flexibility in our system, because it is not an industry. This is an infrastructure. It is as important as roads are to India. That is how warehouse should be looked. Half of the time a discussion with Secretary Logistics APR, you will remember, is why do you consider this to be industry? It's not a profit-making machine. Yes. Warehousing is not profit-making machine. It brings life to this country. If they make little bit of money, it's fine. But at the end, please give them all facilities of surviving. If they survive, they do good, India will do good. But problem is, we are making profit out of the chara which we have to give to the cow to eat. And that's the problem when the cow doesn't get the exact chara which it needs to give better milk, and we are trying to kill the warehousing industry in that.
And I think just to add one sentence to what Atul just mentioned, and without taking too much time, see what is warehousing? Warehousing, it's not retail space, right?
Absolutely,
it's pre-retail space. I don't enjoy stocking inventory. It is my I don't have a choice but to ensure to keep availability close to me. I have to store. I have to hold inventory. So warehousing is a stocking point. It's an inventory area pre-retail. So it has to be made available. It has to have the right policy. It has to be sort of made important, like the road, the rail, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
Completely agreed. I think, great insight from the occupier's point of view, because you touched upon clearly on the overall profit and the numbers, how it stacks up when your costs goes up. Also, you touched upon on the point of reach, which is very, very important. I mean, as a business, as an occupier, what you want is what you clearly spelled out. But Prakrit, you will agree with me that, as a developer, you have your own set of challenges to do that as a cost centric. And when you're talking about in city development, warehousing, or whatever the facility, to cater to the requirements today and making it as a cost effective, because when operation point of view, it could be from the warehouse point of view, and warehouse occupiers will be using it. But outside, as a real estate development, you are directly competing with your retailers and the commercials and the residentials, whatever happening in that vicinity. So I'm saying, from the operation point of view, definitely we have to make it cost effective. But at the same time, as a real estate developer, how do you see that? How is the opportunities for you to do in-city delivery centers, to cater to this requirement? I mean, if an end user client doing it for his own purpose within the city, it's a different ballgame altogether. When as a developer, when you are coming into picture, because it's a separate business model for you, right? So how do you see that, Prakrut, very quickly from your point of view?
Uh, Karuna, I will go in two steps, but before I go into that, I had a couple of questions for APR. If it's okay, I can just spend a
Absolutely,
minute.
absolutely.
APR, I loved what you said. Cost to serve, returns, and go to market or market reach. Correct. I think very well put across. I'm happy to spend 2 hour session, 5 hour session with maybe 10, 15, even 50 occupiers. If we can deliberate, if we can have a session, and I'm sure Anuj would love to join in as well, Karuna. Let us actually understand what is it that us as a service provider slash infrastructure player, partner, whatever you want to call us. End of the day, I'm a simple warehouse slash industrial park developer. I make boxes. They may look beautiful sometimes, they may not look beautiful, but doesn't matter. It serves a purpose. Correct. How do I help you reduce the cost to serve? Obviously, I can only do what is in my reach, and my reach starts once you enter the premises that I've leased out to you. I'm more than happy. As an organization, we are happy to invest in technology, invest in automation, or invest in anything that will help you reduce, your cost, make you more efficient. Because end of the day, I've realized that whatever you may do, the measure of cost to serve, which for the real estate aspect is in per square foot basis, there is a limit to how much you can go down. Ultimately, business is simple arithmetic. I buy land for 100, I construct something for 200, I spend something else another 100, and whatever is my investment, I add a certain return, and that's your per square feet rental that you pay. I mean, it's no rocket science at all. The rocket science is in the insight, and I'm more than happy to get that insight. So, this is for the Logistics Insider team also. Please
Absolutely.
take that. Please take that. I'm happy to be the panelist, and in fact, not the panelist. I'm happy to be the listener. And everybody in the fraternity APR, happy to have them. And let me know how I can help you reduce the cities. Now coming to in city, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So
APR, you
just to
had
add to that, Prakrut,
sure.
and I think the audience will able to also sort of align their thoughts with this. So
Right.
if I talk about my own organization, Varuna Group of Companies, okay. So we did a lot of research. We spent a lot of money on a lot of large professional organizations in searching and finding out whether they can understand our need. So I think the rocket science is first to understand the need, right? Second,
Correct.
rocket science, and the reason why I call it rocket science is because a lot of people like to do the paint job,
Correct.
without actually getting to the putty and getting to the real paint, and then that paint has to be repainted. The wall has to be repainted a year later or maybe less, right? So typically that is how the world works, or rather the less efficient world works. So we spent a lot of time, money in understanding. We realized that people don't understand what we want as occupiers. People don't understand. They do that simple arithmetic, Prakrut, कि मैंने ये जमीन खरीदी है, इसका इतना cost है, and therefore I need a certain ROI, and therefore my price is X, right? But when you understand my supply chain, when you understand my product cost, when you understand how much do I retail at, and therefore how much money do I make, and how much is left for me for my operational expenses, anyone, be it you, Anuj, Karuna, any one of you, will be able to understand exactly what I need. Like a doctor trying to treat a patient, he knows दर्द कहाँ है तो दवा कौन सी होगी. It's not a general आ जाओ आपको anesthesia देके अभी OT पे लिटाता हूँ. It's not that, right? So what we are expecting as occupiers is for real estate partners to get more specific, to understand our needs, to understand our supply chain, to understand even the elements of our expenses, so that you know where exactly can we invest. Otherwise, it's like you're talking to 10 people on the success rate is 10%. एक deal तो हो ही जाएगी. नहीं, you talk to 5 people and you talk to 5 sensible people, मेरे ख्याल से 3 deal हो जाएगी. So that success rate will be high, right? So if I talk about my own organization, when we spend so much of money and time, we realize that finally, it is very difficult to go to an embassy or to Mahindra or to a ESR. These are big guys. कैसे जाएंगे इनके पास? We're a small company, 1,000 crores, etc. So we said, क्या करते हैं? For now, so we devised a large plan. It is called a shared network. I was talking to Karuna the other day about shared network. And we all understand that in a supply chain, unless and until you're doing something massive in terms of economies of scale, you will not reduce your cost to serve, or you will not save money. You will not make a higher profit. So if, let's say, I have a 5 lakh square feet single shed, in an appropriate location, maybe not so when you are on the outskirts, it doesn't matter if you're 10 kilometers here or there, unless and until there's a toll plaza or the state limit changes, etc. Because you know that you're going to fill a large truck and move towards the city, towards the consumption point. So that location doesn't really matter. But when you take a 5 lakh square feet single shed warehouse, then you know that there are so many things that you can do with it, provided you're game for some risks, right? So we created this plan of a 30 large warehouse shared network, and it has warehouses. It has primary transport. Primary transport is essentially larger trucks, full truckload. It has secondary distribution, which is your in-city logistics into retail outlets. So the phase 1 of that project has already started last year. So we have created a structure in Sitarganj, Rudrapur. We've created a structure in Ambala. And as we are embarking beyond that, we know that there are 28 more warehouses to be done. And yes, we saw that there was very little options earlier with us, and hence we invested or we did all permutation combinations to create those 2 large structures. But the 27th, 26th, 25th, 24th, and so on and so forth, till we complete the 30 structures, we know that the same model will not be useful, right? So we definitely want people, real estate partners, to understand what we need and to come up with plans. And we are game for long-term relationships, lock-ins, 10-year, 15-year, those kind of projects, very similar to what we are doing today. Because if, let's say, I think there was one gentleman in the audience, Mukesh Kandoy, who even asked a question. So though I'm not trying to answer the entire question, which we can do later, Karuna, but the question was on-demand warehousing. So if I know I have a large site, I know that large site can have multiple customers, and I can also have something called as variable usage. So we created this only because we understood that the industry wants this. So if Atul needs space of, let's say, 1 lakh square feet for 4 months, depending on the seasonality of his product, but for the remaining 8 months, he needs only 30,000 square feet. am I in a position to serve him on that? That is where his cost to serve will be in check. So we did this at Ambala, and that project went live about 4 months ago. And we are still working on various modalities. We know that we might not make money in the first 4 years, we might make it in the 7th year or the 6th year. But the amount of integration that will happen, the amount of technology, automation, people, skilling of resources, CSR in terms of even environmental concerns. It's a site which has it is green certified, or it has what do we call them, those panels, the solar panels that can generate electricity, etc. So a lot of things have been done, and I'm sure that we are not the best people to do that, and we don't wish to do that. Like Atul manufactures, we are good with what we do. We are good service partners. We are not great real estate guys. It is not a cup of tea. So we would want people like you to step up, come and understand from us what is required, partner with us, so that when we are creating this network, then we know that, okay, these guys are good at this, we are good at this, and that 1 + 1 is equal to 11, right? So we have this master plan, and we are hoping to hear from you. And like you said, Logistics Insider should, sort of arrange for another session where occupiers can give their feedback to developers and real estate partners in exactly what is the requirement, and I'm pretty sure that success rate will be very high. Prakrut.
Sure. So APR, point taken, and I'm sure Anuj will be equally happy to take up an opportunity like this. I'm more than happy because I personally worked on a model for on-demand warehouse. I was not as big a risk taker as you are, so I worked on a 50,000 scalable to 100,000 on-demand warehousing. I tried to see if I can integrate it using technology. But this is something that we can connect offline, and I'm sure Anuj will be equally interested in exploring that opportunity. And between, of course, we are not just wanting to be thought leaders here. We also want to be leaders in terms of action and strategy. And something like this, we are more than willing to experiment, explore. And I know that this is the most logical progression that can happen, which can benefit uh, an occupier, a service provider, and finally an infrastructure provider like us. So happy to do that. I think, Karuna, most of the things
Yeah.
that I would have been talking about for InCity has been covered. And I
Sure.
guess looking at the time, we are already at 5:15. So I guess I'll rest it here. And I must say it was very, very insightful. Thank you for that, APR. And we should connect offline.
Absolutely.
I think you, me, and Anuj can connect offline completely separately. And Atul, I think you should join in there. You are very, very experienced, and a little bit help at your end will probably help us make a new business model for sure.
Great. Thanks, Prakrut. Fantastic APR. Great insight from the occupier's point of view. And in fact, you also covered the point of the next what we had in the subject, which is basically looking at new warehouse technology, what is coming in, what is expected, etc. But still, I just close that with one more request from Atul on that. While we spoke about the location, advantage, technology, cost, etc., I think from the workforce point of view, would you like to share something? What is important when you're talking about consolidation and moving away from autonomous buildings, etc., which is primarily looking at more technology driven rather than skill driven kind of facilities.
Yeah. So basically, my understanding or my opinion is that, and especially for all those people who are from the warehouse industry and likely to develop, even for that matter, Prakrut, it has to be a very integrated approach to warehousing. Warehousing it's not a building. It is going to be a hub for activities for multiple industries, be it complete warehousing, the industry it's serving, the people it's serving, the support system it will create, the transport network which it will bring in, not only for the movement of inventory, even for the people. So it has to be a very integrated approach. The larger the facility or the node is, the larger the integration is required. I would say it's as simple as manpower. You know, when you look at a particular facility creation into a particular area, you should also look at the manpower availability. And if you can integrate that manpower by going to Gram Panchayat, getting some vocational training, finding some intelligent, educated people at supervisor level, then, bringing the government officials into it, as simple as changing the bus route of a local busing service to get the people out there. How many of us actually get into those kind of minor details? And trust me, when you empower the local population, it is the stakes are much higher for them to ensure these runs. So there will be minimum disruption. The availability of manpower will never be a question. Theft will reduce. How does Indian Army manage that? See, Indian Army, if you look into say Gurkha regiment or Kumaon regiment, they all come from same village. A man would never like to go back and his family would be known that this guy is a thief or he is not brave or he's a coward. So he dies for the country just to ensure his name doesn't go bad. So if you bring in people from same village, that guy will not afford to steal because his name of the family will come into picture in that village. So we do not have that integrated approach to warehousing development, where people development, infrastructure development, involvement of government. Every time we do anything, and I'm not talking about warehouse industry alone, we do it only in isolation. We never look end-to-end approach. We never look 15 years, 20 years, 25 years, that building is going to be there for another 50 years. The guy who gets employed in that warehouse, his sons would get employed after some years, So that is the approach I'm looking at. And the responsibility should be of the industry. It is going to benefit them immensely if I am a user, if I get manpower, if the manpower comes in time, it is a very trustworthy manpower. It has got power because we have connected with the local government officials. It gives employment. It helps even the politician who is going to be there, because at the end of the day, what are you bringing? You're bringing employment to the local agency. That's what we used to do even in PepsiCo. When we put plants in a particular location, we involve the local people, the Gram Panchayats, the people at local level, the politician at local level. So what happens is those people support us and we support them. So the stakes of the common people in that area becomes much higher. So my suggestion, Prakrut, is I'm sure you would be having such multiple cities at number of places, but start very young, from class 5, class 8, class 10 onwards. And you don't need graduates for those things, You can pick up after class 12. And now the curriculum is changing anyway for the more vocational based training. And why can't we establish some kind of a training center in that location where we actually have hardcore trainers training these people? And look at the
Atul sir,
funnel.
can I say something? Can I say something?
Yeah, sure.
I have 15 parks in the country. Every park, I'm happy to get a training center.
Perfect.
I'm more than happy to get. If you have the connect, let's connect offline. But this is something we want to do as a group. ESR is very highly committed to CSR activities, and under the CSR activity, we have been going across to villages. Are we doing something on the vocational side or not? I'm not too sure if we do it at all the places, but depending upon the location we are in, we always connect with the local populace there. But
Perfect.
This vocational thing, I'm very happy. I did connect with a private institution who was wanting to set up, but things like an ITI or whichever are these training institutes, if they are willing to join hands with us, please let me know. If you have the connect, let me know. I'm happy to connect and take it forward. Let me know.
How much does it cost? You have just one large open shed, a drinking water facility, one blackboard.
Don't worry about that. I will make it even better.
Colonel, just to add to what you said, Prakrut, so I have recently been inducted on the board of advisors for Skill Institute, of logistics.
Sure.
Skill Development Council.
And I think Atul also would be a part of it. So this Logistics Skill Council directly reports into National Skill Development Center, NSDC. Okay. So with NSDC and LSC, even the government is supporting with certain subsidies, and certain expectations for enterprises like yourselves or enterprises like Varuna. And we would definitely be keen on offline getting in touch with you so that we can take this forward in terms of ensuring that either upskilling is happening or skilling is happening in
No
in, in
problem.
the area of logistics and supply chain.
Let's do
Over to
that. Let's do that. Done. Yeah, I
Great,
think
great.
Karuna, we are already towards the
Yeah,
end of the session. I'll leave it to
absolutely,
you.
but just
Can I
few
with your
minutes.
permission?
One.
Yeah.
Sorry, one question on the
With your
policy
permission,
front.
I'll just take a minute. Okay. Well, no, just before that question, I'll just take a minute
Sure,
to
sure.
answer some of the questions, which and points which Abhishek, Atul, and Prakrut has made. I think all of them are very valid points, both from perspective of the occupier as well as a developer. And I think that's where one has to see himself as a responsible development partner. Maybe I'm an occupier or I'm a developer. And I can quote, here, very proudly about the world cities, when we started creating the integrated cities and industrial clusters, we started looking at the whole community as at large, today. So we talk about, when we talk to our clients, we talk about their cost to serve, delivery of time. Parallelly, we work with the larger communities, with the nearby villages, and today we have trained some few thousand people across multiple locations, where we have an on-site training centers for not just skilling them into a specific professional course, but also, bring in entrepreneur capabilities. Okay, we are very conscious on the sustainability and the green development part, as well as, I like to also mention, when Abhishek talked about NSDC at Jaipur, we have one of the India's first skill-based university, which has been already set up. And there's in the Indo-Swiss joint venture, there is a skill development center. Well, I will invite you guys to come visit and see, kind of an infrastructure we have created. And all our cities and ecosystems are surrounded by villages. And the best way to work with them together is, to
Correct.
take them along with you, because that's the only way, you can create a larger sustainable ecosystem. And we have been managing that quite beautifully. So it's just about saying here, but you've really done that on ground. More than happy to invite you to one of our world cities and show you in terms of how we have done this. It's a complete value proposition for everyone, as a society as well
Very
as
good.
occupier and a developer.
Great. Thanks, Anuj. Thank you so much. So, yes, in the interest of time, just last one question, very quickly to Anuj. Your input on the current and expected policies in terms of investment and development and occupation of in the logistical industrial space in India. Any feedback from you quickly?
Sure. Karan. I think the India has moved a long way in terms of not just in terms of infrastructure development, but also from a policy perspective. And as Abhishek and Atul was talking about, warehousing and logistics as more as a service than as a product. Of course, the infrastructure status in 2017 and as enabling really the sector to have an easier access to money and a much cheaper capital available through ECBs, pension funds, insurance money chasing, and I think, if you look at ESR and a lot of other players, including, what we are doing, there's a lot of capital which is chasing a good quality development and a good infrastructure. And I think, apart from that, the government has done a lot of work in terms of ease of doing business. The ranking improvement into a double digit is not just by talking about it and just a pure marketing gimmick, but there's a lot which has been done both at a country as well as both at a state level, because India is a federal ecosystem. At the end of the day, whatever is implemented, it is implemented at the state. So just a pure center initiative does not work, but the states have to also work together. Today, states equally compete, and probably a chief minister of a state works like a CEO of an organization where he's enabling all his departments in terms of working together, single window clearances, seeing how they can do ease of doing business. So, all this is really improving your DD, and I think the kind of an investment which government is planning, planning almost close to $1.5 trillion of investment in infrastructure over the next 5 to 6 years, and also increasing the port capability, because the port itself will also play a very important role when we look at India from an you know from an Atmanirbhar Bharat. It is not just about consumption based, but it also India making a global factory. So I think we are just moving the right way. It's about collaborative effort in which every one of us has to work together. Karna CBRE, plays a very important role as a consultant and information provider. We as a developer are responsible in terms of creating infrastructure, and that all cannot happen without Atul and Abhishek being a good occupiers for us. It's all as a team we work together. That's like a limited point I like to make.
Absolutely, Anuj. Great. Thank you. Thanks a lot. I just go to Abhishek on the same point, because you had some points you want to talk about the policies at the end. Very quickly, Abhishek, your views on that. More importantly,
Yes,
what
so
is
I
that
think
you need in future is what important actually, right? One is what is available today and what is in need in future.
see, I think but that it will become a very long topic if I talk about what's available and what's needed. What I can sort of sum it up is that the most important thing that is needed is consolidation of thoughts and views, being on the same page. And being on the same page is not easy because you have n number of associations in this country, and we all have several separate agendas. So even if the real estate lobby can drive it, when I say real estate, I'm talking about developers and all of us put together. If we can create a joint association which can drive it in line with a FICCI, in line with a CII, I think then it will be one initiative. Because these days, you have the 3PL association, you have the practitioners association, you have the real estate developers association, you have so many associations, you have the pharma association, FMCG association. It does not really help because they're only trying to address their own agenda. But here if I look at us right now on this panel, we are almost all that is required on the same page, right? So you have a developer, you have an occupier, you have a consultant. What is required? This is precisely what is required. So if we all have our views aligned in terms of what is required, I believe that policy changes are not very very difficult. It only needs consensus. Yeah. It needs one voice, and that is where you can emerge successful. So if I get into nitty gritties of commercial land usage license chahiye, or if I talk about Lal Dora hai Delhi mein, it just does not help. If someone is going to ask me a question, can Surat become a great hub, or Ahmedabad become a great hub? Those are very very specific questions. You know as a consultant what kind of work goes into in terms of researching. Even these developers over here, my friends Anuj and Prakrut, know what all do you do before you make an investment. So those are massive questions. But from a policy perspective, all we need is consensus, and then we can all have a framework saying this is required, that can be tabled. So I'm also on the board of advisors of FICCI and I'm representing the national logistics policy there, from FICCI to the government, along with the joint secretaries, right? So when we deliberate, I will not have only my views, I will have views of Anuj, Prakrut, Atul, Karunakaran, and many more. And that is when we can zero down on what really is required, rather than what Prakrut needs or APR needs or Anuj needs
Yeah,
specific,
yeah.
individually. So that is the larger game, I would say. And like Rome was not built within a day, so we would not have all policies in our favor overnight. But over a period of time, even that would make a lot of difference. I think we are running short of time, so I would not get into
Yeah.
specifics.
Great. Thank you so much, Abhishek. Thank you so much. Thanks for it. I completely agree with you. It's a team effort, and team should be there, irrespective of the which sub vertical you are within the group. Completely agreed. So yeah, I think that is all what we have on this agenda side. Just a quick closure, a minute of that I'll take. Basically, we have spoken about as we are moving into new normal situation. We are talking about reach to market, and just taking the points what we discussed, reach to market and cost saving, most important factor what we spoke about, and also technology and workforce, how it can enable us to look at the new normal wherein we are talking about reach to market and cost saving, etc., how it can add up to that. And also the most important another piece is as a developer, Prakrit and Anuj spoke about how the market is moving. If they have to build not only in one city, in multi cities, an efficient solution for occupiers like you, what is that they have to look into? It could be a larger format, smaller format. That's a different and debatable based on the product, based on the requirements. But still, there is a solution coming from the developers. Interestingly, we spoke about meeting together or speaking together to understand more in depth as from the occupier's point of view to give a right solution from developers. I think that's a fantastic, takeaway from the overall conversation what we have had so far. And thank you so much. Thanks a lot. And I first of all thank you for taking a lot of time and coming into the show and sharing your views to the viewers. Kavi, we are done with our session. If any question answers, if you have something, but I think we are already short of time. Do you have time to take it, and I can go around the questions?
Okay, so you can take one or two questions. You can select one or two questions if you could answer really quickly, and then we would conclude the session.
Yeah, sure. Please go ahead.
Yeah.
So Karuna, just to add, I think there were a couple of questions that I could see on the page. So I shared one input there. I said that Logistics Insider will take it separately and maybe post it on the page of Logistics Insider, the answers, after coordinating with us. That could be one, and a few questions definitely, if we have the time, can be answered. So Kavi and Karuna, you can take the stage here.
Okay. Yeah. Karuna, sir, you could choose one or two questions. I have sent you a few, and you can ask one or two questions in a short time if that's possible.
Sorry, I haven't received questions from you. I'm just looking at the chat box.
I
think Karuna, it will be on the comments part. It will be in the comments part mostly.
Yes.
Okay, so if that's an issue, I already have a few questions. Can I ask those? Shall I?
Yeah, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So there was a question if any one of you could share your views on on-demand warehousing in India. A small summarize it, because we already have the panel.
APR.
Yeah, I think I can do that.
APR ideal for you.
Yes.
I will support wherever I think I can, but ideal for you.
Okay. So I think on-demand warehousing is something which has been a very difficult nut to crack. About 12 years ago, I remember a company called Transmart, which invested into it. And unfortunately, it didn't work at that point of time. The company bled to eventual extinction. But now, as we all know, be it the pandemic, be it the economic situation, be it where India is moving in the direction, and the fact that our population is increasing and inflation is high, so the only solution we have is to save costs, right? So when you apply the principles of lean, LEA, and for those of you who don't understand, so when you start applying the principles of lean, you will realize that you will have to trim fat wherever possible. And a large area of fat, which Atul will agree with me, is variability, because there's no variability absolutely. You sign up a contract, 12 months you're stuck. You can't do anything about it. Surges, peaks, volumes, live with it. Yeah. So what happens? People like Atul and me then try and take lesser space, and then we struggle with the age-old problem of troubles of then just before the peak season going out scouting for place. Then in the ERP we have a lot of technical issues, because now we have 2 or 3 locations to map for the same inventory. Physically for logistics we have issues, because now the trucks and the people are moving and labor are moving to different locations. So the cost goes up, but overall when you look at it, you end up still saving, right? So if on-demand warehousing is available, it does help, but that is a business risk It is not easy. So the right mix is important. FMCG, FNB, pharma, engineering, auto, that kind of a mix in different seasonalities. So we did this now with one of our facilities, and so far it is working well. And we are hoping that we will turn green very soon. So on-demand warehousing definitely is the need of the decade and the future.
Yeah.
So as you mentioned about green warehousing, so the next question I would like to ask is, one of our audiences stated a line: in-city warehouse would be more attractive if focused on green warehousing. So if anyone would like to comment on that.
That's like, with all due respect, that's like saying, when will Bombay become New York? Yeah. So
Yeah, but
such a line.
Abhishek, you're right.
Atul,
But
you should
fact
take
of
this one.
the yeah. So, but fact of the matter is that would become a norm, whether we like it or we don't like it. In city house warehouses have to adhere to the pollution norms, right? And these norms are going to get only stringent by the day. One of the major concerns of the industry, and for which industry needs to be readily ready, we should not be seen to be the reluctant players of the, at the end of the day, it talks about us, it talks about people, lives and environment. So that is itself, and after some time, the carbon points which you're going to get, the carbon, the benefits you're going to get of saving pollution is going to help you making your bottom line much better, because those kind of incentives are slowly going to come. Look at the way the entire thing, 5 years back, we never used to think of certain things which we have become a norm now, right? So eventually, green warehousing will be the norm. I know it very well, because our plants in Pepsi used to be struggling to be environmental friendly, because the amount of water we pump out of the ground resources is humongous, and you need to pump it back, and otherwise we'll not be able to put our industry into any place. So that, I think this is very, very important that we have green warehouses, and especially in city will be very, very important.
Yeah. Okay. So this would be the last question for today. When can we look at a demand surge for grade A warehouse in India? And do you think there is more market maturity required for the surge?
Ideal for Karuna.
Yeah, sure, Prakrut. I'll take it, not an issue. So, I mean, there is a demand. There is definitely a demand for grade A warehousing from the occupier's point of view. As I started saying, even one of the requirement from the occupiers today is a compliant-oriented building. We have seen some of the clients relocating only because, even maybe location point of view, the building is meeting all the requirement, but only from the compliance point of view, it's not meeting all the requirements. They must have occupied in older days. They're relocating from there to the compliant building. So when we talk about compliant building, there are certain parameters comes in that, built in with that. Basically, your fire and your infrastructure, etc., which is making your building definitely a grade A, kind of requirement, right? So that is one. And the second, not only from the occupier's point of view, developers like ESR and Mahindra coming into the business, and they started building warehouse parks. The stock quality has improved a lot, and that is becoming a new requirement benchmark today. I mean, today we have not seen anybody coming and requesting for a space which is definitely outdated and only from the commercial benefit point of view. Today the importance are more, the priorities are more towards your safety, security, EHRs, compliance, and also quality of the building. Of course, they wanted to achieve the cost benefit along with that, which is a mismatch sometime. But having said that, the requirement point of view as well as the developers building point of view, the quality has improved a lot. So I think grade A requirements are coming in, and that's the expectation today from most of the occupiers, except the short-term small requirements wherein they're okay to go and look at the ready building, which is a grade B, only from the to meet the immediate business requirement for shorter period. But otherwise, when some any client who's talking about long term, the grade A is the norm today.
Okay. Thank you, sir. So, as we conclude, I would like our panelists to give a closing remark, like one minute each, and then we could conclude the session. Starting with you, Anuj sir, if you could, please.
Sure, Karvik. I think firstly I'd like to thank all the panelists, in terms of a very interesting session, and especially Atul, Liu, and Abhishek, giving a very different perspective from an occupier perspective. But I think one important thing I'd like to tell you, from uh, perspective of a developer, rather we call it more as a platform which we have created for ourselves, which is a replicable platform in terms of giving a quality infrastructure. I think, we resonate to the point around building in efficiency, and as well as, monitoring cost control. But, we are here to provide best in class infrastructure, which is also is in terms of longevity as well as from a long term perspective contributing to the society as well as to the overall economic goal of the country.
Prakrut sir, if you could give a conclusion, like a concluding remark,
Sure.
please.
Sure, Karvik. So, apart from thanking everybody on the panel, I mean, I was really glad to listen to the views presented by everybody. Anuj, Atul, Karuna, APR. I really hope to connect offline. So don't forget that, guys. Don't just disappear after this session. I mean, we have a WhatsApp group. Let's connect on that. But I
You've got
am
to see what
but I am really looking forward to that. So Karvi, I can only conclude by saying maybe this is a trailer of what should really be coming up. Let's have a larger forum, a much more focused one, and for a change, let us be the listener. I would be more than happy if the occupiers talk once, and let Karuna be the moderator. I think he's a good moderator to have.
Thank you so much.
Sure,
Thank you
sir,
so
we
much,
will
Prakrut.
be
Thank you.
doing that in the future.
Okay.
Atul sir, a closing remark from your end, please.
Yeah. So my take is that firstly, is the warehousing industry is not a money making machine. We would make some profits out of it, but it is not a it's not a business as any other business is. In fact, it's not a business, right? It's an infrastructure, and we together, both users and the developers, must fight with the government, push it, because earlier I remember me and APR, we used to be meeting Mr. Siva Selvam quite regularly in a lot of forum. He was very active and he used to listen our intake. So we should consolidate this particular thought and fight it out together, that this is not an industry or a business. It's an infrastructure, be it now regular warehouses, ambient or the cold storage. Please give them that category and avoid any of these other taxes. Ensure that kind of support from local agencies to establish this business. At the end of the day, your entire industry or growth of the country depends on warehouse industry. Secondly is, let's work together, both the users and the developers, and work in long term, because if we look into short term gains, probably we both are losers, and these short term gains brings in huge disruptions. So if you are looking at some kind of a warehousing facility, ask for long leases, 5 years, 10 years, and then invest. Right? It brings stability to your business. Let's not get into short-term profit. Whether I move out because I'm getting a cheaper warehouse, or you ask me to move out because you're getting a better client. So that long-term relationship and trust into each other. I remember the Toyota supply chain. Develop the vendors with the main organization. That is how they bond, and let's bond together like that.
Yeah. Karuna sir, a remark from your end, please.
Thanks, Kavi. In fact, during the session also, I made my closing remarks saying it's a great learning to know from the occupiers in specific, because when it comes to our interaction with occupiers, more we speak about the real estate requirement and solution part and work on that directly, rather than getting into the stage where it is coming from. Now, in this platform, we could able to understand from APR and Atul how the requirements are spanning out, and what's the minimum requirement and the cost, which is very important factor, what has been brought up by Abhishek today. So that's an insight for us when we are working on this kind of solutions to understand why they are so cost constrained and why it is important. So that will help us to table out clear solutions, which is meeting the business requirement, not only the real estate requirement. So that's one learning from the session, which is great. And I really thank all of the panel members for their time and the kind of knowledge what they shared on this session today. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot to everybody.
Abhishek, sir.
Nice
for closing
interaction.
remarks.
I think Kavi, I've spoken a lot, so I don't want
Okay,
to
no.
spend too much time on this, but I can just sum it up in a sentence that one voice, one India. Let's work together.
Yeah.
Great.
A very nice remark, sir. So,
Thank you.
this was indeed a very electrifying session, and I hope our audience have gained a lot from this session. I would, in the end, like to thank all our panelists and our audience for joining us today. And also, I would like to say, please like, share, and follow Logistics Insider's LinkedIn page for more such insightful supply chain updates. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thanks to all.
Thank you.
Thanks,
See you
Kavi.
guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.